The West Barbridge Country Club had always been the centerpiece of my family's social life. It featured an 18-hole championship golf course, an Olympic-sized pool, pristine tennis courts that hosted regional tournaments, and a dining room where million-dollar business deals were often sealed over perfectly aged steaks. I'd practically grown up there, attending debutante balls, anniversaries, and graduation parties, always as the overlooked younger daughter who never quite matched the family's expectations. My sister Vanessa, 35, embodied everything my parents admired: an Ivy League graduate, married to a corporate attorney, and a volunteer coordinator for several prestigious charities. She wore designer fashion like armor and never stumbled over a wine list. I, on the other hand, was the disappointment. After dropping out of college 2 years in, I bounced between jobs as a barista, retail manager, and administrative assistant. While Vanessa flaunted her luxury wardrobe, I showed up to family gatherings in Target outfits instead of Neiman Marcus ensembles. That Sunday, I made the mistake of arriving at the club's brunch, wearing jeans, a casual blazer, and flats. My parents were already seated at their usual terrace table when I entered. Dad noticed me first. His expression soured immediately. "Absolutely not," he declared, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "You're not sitting with us dressed like that." I stopped a few feet away. Mom set down her mimosa, eyes sharp with judgment. "Emma, what are you wearing?" "Clothes," I replied, evenly. "You invited me to brunch." "I invited you assuming you dress appropriately. This is the West Barbridge, not a shopping mall." Just then, Vanessa appeared, flawless in a cream dress that probably cost more than my rent used to. She froze upon seeing me. "Oh my God, Emma. Are you serious right now?" "About what?" "Showing up here looking like that." She gestured at me. "This is a members-only club." "Men devoir," I said calmly. Dad stood, his voice rising with indignation. At 62, Richard Hartley was still commanding, tall, silver-haired, and shaped by decades of running a successful real estate firm. "This is embarrassing," he said. "My daughter shows up in jeans and bargain bin clothes. Do you know how this reflects on me? On this family?" "Is Tim wearing a blazer?" I pointed out. "A blazer from where? Walmart?" "Actually, yes." Mom winced, like been struck. "Emma Catherine Hartley, you will leave this club immediately and return when you properly dressed. Or better yet, don't return at all." I noticed several families watching, including the Vandermeers, who seemed to be enjoying the scene. "I was invited," I said quietly. "You called Thursday and asked me to join you. I assumed you had enough sense to dress properly." Mom snapped. "Clearly, I overestimated you again." Vanessa stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Emma, you are making a scene. Everyone staring. Just go home, change, and maybe we can fix this." "I drove an hour to get here." "Then you should thought about that before leaving the house looking like a homeless person." The insult lingered like poison. "Leave," Dad ordered. "No. Before you embarrass us further." "I haven't done anything," I said. "Your presence is the embarrassment," Mom replied coldly. "Walking in here dressed like you are about to clean houses. What will people think? That I am your daughter?" "Not if I can help it," she said. "We have a reputation here. Your father sips on the board, Vanessa sips being considered for the social committee, and you show up like this. It's disrespectful." Their rejection was familiar. They'd treated me like a failure ever since I dropped out of Duke University 10 years ago. They never asked why, never cared to know. "I'll speak to management," Dad said, pulling out his phone. "Have you escorted out if necessary?" "Dad, that's not." "Do not argue with me," he snapped. "You humiliated this family enough." He stormed inside toward the main building. Mom and Vanessa turned their backs to me, as if I'd ceased to exist. I could have left, but I didn't. I followed him inside. The clubhouse gleamed with marble floors, chandeliers, and oil portraits of its 1923 founders. Dad stood at the concierge desk, voice sharp. "There's a situation on the terrace," he said. "My daughter arrived inappropriately dressed, and I need her removed." The young concierge hesitated. "Sir, if she sits your guest, she sits not my guest anymore. I set ma revoking the invitation. Have her leave immediately." "I shall get the manager for you, Mr. Hartley." She disappeared, and Dad stood fuming, checking his Rolex. When she returned, she brought someone I recognized, Patricia Odom, the general manager, professional and composed. "Mr. Hartley," she greeted politely. "How can I assist?" "That," he said, pointing at me. "My daughter, jeans, cheap clothes, unacceptable. I want her off the property." Patricia Sepp's expression stayed neutral. "And you sector requesting we escort your daughter out?" "Yes. I set them on the board, Patricia. You understand how important appearances are." "Indeed," she replied. "So this is a formal request to have her removed?" "Yes. Get the owner if you need authorization. Handle it now." By then, Mom and Vanessa had joined us. "This is why we stopped inviting you," Mom said. "No sense of decorum." "Honestly, Emma," Vanessa added, "it sets like you stare trying to embarrass us." Patricia raised a hand. "One moment." She called over the radio for security and requested someone locate Miss Hartley. Dad gave a satisfied nod. "Thank you. Standards must be maintained." "Absolutely," Patricia agreed. "Standards are crucial." Two suited security officers appeared. Patricia excused herself briefly, then returned a few minutes later, accompanied by Catherine Brennan, the club's director of operations, and behind her, my assistant, Jordan, holding a leather portfolio. "Mr. Hartley," Catherine said professionally, "I understand you Stev requested the owner's Steps involvement over a dress code issue." "Yes," Dad said, looking self-assured. "My daughter Seps dressed inappropriately and needs to be removed. If the owner must approve it, fine, but do it now." Catherine nodded. "The owner is here, actually. Miss Hartley, would you like to address this personally?" She looked at me. Dad frowned, confused. "What?" Patricia stepped forward. "Mr. Hartley, allow me to properly introduce Emma Hartley. She Seps the owner of the West Bridge Country Club. She purchased it 8 months ago through Hartley Hospitality Group." Silence fell. Dad Sip's expression went blank. "What?" "Your daughter, Catherine confirmed, owns this club property, facilities, membership contracts, everything." Mom stumbled back, visibly shaken. Vanessa's phone slipped from her hand and clattered against the marble floor. "That Sip's impossible," Dad whispered. Jordan stepped forward, opening the portfolio to display the documents inside. The purchase was finalized on February 15th through a corporate acquisition, he explained. The previous owners were losing money due to poor management, outdated amenities, and falling membership. Miss Hartley bought the property for $14.7 million and has since invested another $8.2 million in renovations and upgrades. He handed Dad the paperwork. My father looked at it, as if it were written in another language. "The new tennis courts," Jordan continued. "Miss Hartley Sip's investment. The renovated dining room, her funding. The expanded spa facilities that opened last month, part of her modernization strategy." Dad Spet's hands trembled slightly as he read. "Emma, this can set be real." "It sets real," I said quietly. "I set boned the West Brubridge for 8 months. I just hadn't set made it public yet." "But how?" Mom Sep's voice was barely above a whisper. "You work retail. You manage some store." "I worked retail 7 years ago." I corrected gently. "Then I moved into hospitality management. I started consulting for struggling properties, helped them restructure, increase revenue, and eventually built a name for myself. I began purchasing properties, small hotels at first, then restaurants, then event venues. Patricia added, Miss Hartley Sepp's company currently owns 14 properties across 3 states. The West Brobridge is her largest acquisition to date. Vanessa Sipp's voice cracked as she spoke. 14 properties? You own 14? 15, Jordan interjected. We closed on a boutique hotel in Asheville yesterday. Miss Hartley flew back this morning, just to make this brunch. Dad stared at the documents. My name printed clearly across the legal pages. Why didn't you tell us? I met his gaze. My father who just tried to have me removed from my own property. When exactly would I have told you? At Christmas while you went on about Vanessa's charity work being a true contribution to society. Or at Easter, when you told everyone I was still trying to figure things out. New, some prime. What a daughter detays in nation. That Sepp's not fair, Mom said weakly. Isn't it? I replied. You Sepp spent 10 years treating me like a failure because I didn't follow your path. I dropped out of Duke, so I was a disappointment. I worked retail, so I was beneath you. I didn't marry a lawyer or a doctor, so I was an embarrassment. We were just concerned, Vanessa murmured. No, I said. You were ashamed. There sits a difference. Catherine cleared her throat softly. Miss Hartley, you mentioned wanting to review membership contracts today. Yes, I said. Glad for the change in subject. Can you bring up the Hartley family membership? She accessed the file on her tablet. Richard and Margaret Hartley primary members, since 1998. Vanessa Hartley Preston, associate member since 2015. What are the annual dues, I asked. $45,000 for primary membership, $12,000 for associate. And the contract terms? Annual renewal, with 90 days SEPTA notice required for cancellation by either party. However, ownership reserves the right to terminate membership immediately for cause. Dad finally spoke again. Emma, what are you doing? I looked at him, then at Mom and Vanessa, the family that had just tried to have me physically removed from my own property because of my clothes. Patricia, I said evenly, can you explain what qualifies as cause for termination? She read from her tablet. Clause 7.3. Membership may be terminated for conduct unbecoming, harassment of staff or members, damage to property or any behavior deemed harmful to the club SIP's reputation and values. And who decides what qualifies? I asked. Club ownership has sole discretion. I let the words hang in the air. Dad's face turned pale. Emma, surely you are not suggesting. You demanded I be removed from the property, I said. You called me an embarrassment. You said my presence hurt the family SIP's image. Would it have mattered if I weren't SIP's the owner? Would you have treated any other member this way? Mom stepped forward, hands clasped. Emma, please. You are upset, and rightfully so. We made a terrible mistake, but don't do anything drastic. Drastic, I echoed. Like trying to have your daughter thrown out of a country club? Vanessa was crying now, her mascara running. I said I'm sorry, we are all sorry, please. I stood still, feeling the weight of every slight, every dismissive glance over the past decade. The introductions as our other daughter, the family photos that placed me at the edge, the dinners where my accomplishments were brushed aside, while Vanessa's volunteer projects became lengthy discussions. Catherine, I said, what happens to someone who tries to have the owner removed from the property? She didn't hesitate. Immediate termination of membership, permanent ban, loss of privileges, and if that member holds a board seat, automatic removal. Dad looked stricken. Emma, please. I served on that board for 12 years. I sorm next in line for board president. Can said quietly. Interesting choice of word from someone who just tried to have me escorted out of my own property. A small crowd had gathered now, members and staff, some recording the scene. Jordan leaned close. Maybe we should take this private, he whispered. He was right. This was spiraling further than I'd intended, but after years of being dismissed, the anger was hard to contain. Here's what's going to happen, I said steadily. Dad, your board position is suspended pending review. Mom, Vanessa, your memberships are suspended for 30 days. Emma, please, Mom began. During that time, I continued. You subtle think about how you treat people, how you judge them, and what truly matters. And if we don't stut, Dad asked bitterly. Then the suspensions become permanent, I replied. And you can explain to your friends why you are no longer welcome at the club you belong to for 26 years. Vanessa sobbed harder. Mom looked faint. Dad's expression was hollow. I turned to Catherine. Please escort them out. They are suspended members, and not authorized to be on the property. Emma, you can do this, Dad said, his voice breaking. This club is our life, our friends, our community. Then maybe, I said softly, you should treated your daughter like she mattered more than a dress code. Security approached politely. Mr. Hartley, Mrs. Hartley, Miss Preston, please come with us. They were led out through the same entrance I'd walked in, just half an hour earlier, expecting a simple family brunch. The lobby fell silent, except for the gentle sound of the fountain. Patricia stepped forward. Miss Hartley, that was bold. I didn't say that, I replied. She almost smiled. You still given everyone something to talk about for the next year. I nodded, feeling drained. Please have my assistant send me the membership review files. I want to make sure we there handling dress code complaints consistently and fairly. Of course, she said. And Patricia, thank you for supporting me. That couldn't have been easy. You stir the owner, she replied simply. And for what it's worth, you stir's been the best thing to happen to this club in years. The changes, the investments, the staff notices, the members do too, even if they don't know it. Stirs you. I didn't stay for brunch. Instead, I went to my car and sat there, hands trembling from the rush of adrenaline. My phone buzzed almost immediately. Texts from Vanessa. Emma, please, we can talk about this. Then from Mom. Your father is devastated. Is this really how you want to treat your family? An email followed from Dad. I'm calling the family lawyer. You can't abuse your position like this. There are bylaws. I silenced my phone. Jordan appeared at my window, tapping lightly. I rolled it down. You okay? He asked. Not sure yet, I admitted. He exhaled. That was the most uncomfortable thing I ever witnessed in my career. I once saw a CEO dismiss his entire board during a company holiday party. It was shocking, but part of me couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. Was I wrong for that? I asked Jordan later. Wrong? Maybe not. Brutal? Absolutely, he said. Deserved? Probably. But Emma, you need to think about what happens next. Your dad's right about one thing. There are bylaws, and they'll use them. They're not going to let this go quietly. He was right. The satisfaction from that confrontation was already fading, replaced by the reality of what I'd done. If this went public, and it would, the headlines wouldn't be kind. Vindictive owner bans family over dress code. Schedule a meeting with the legal team for tomorrow morning. I said. I want to confirm that everything I did was within my rights. Already set for 9, Jordan replied. And pull the last 5 years of data on dress code enforcement. I want to see how consistent it's been, especially for board members and their families. You think there's bias? I think my father spent years deciding who fits in and who doesn't stut. I want proof of how fair those decisions have really been. Jordan nodded. You still have the report by tomorrow afternoon. I drove to my real home, not the modest apartment my family believed I rented, but the renovated Victorian I'd bought 3 years earlier, in a historic district, 4 bedrooms, restored hardwood floors, and a garden I rarely had time to tend. Inside, I poured a glass of wine and sat in my living room, surrounded by old family photos, Christmas mornings, summer vacations, birthdays, fragments of a family that once looked perfect from the outside. My phone remained off, but I could imagine the flood of messages. Anger, confusion, shame. I'd humiliated them in front of their friends. The same social circle they'd spent years protecting. Was I wrong? The question followed me through the evening, through dinner, and into a restless night. By Monday morning, I had 17 voicemails. I listened to them one by one over coffee. Mom, Sunday 2 p.m. Emma, your father sips in the hospital. His blood pressure spiked. The doctor says he'll be fine. But this stress, this is what you Siv done to him. Vanessa, Sunday 5 p.m. Do you even realize what you Seb done? I Seb been asked to step down from the charity board. They don't set want the controversy. My husband Sep's furious. You Sep ruined everything. Dad, Sunday 8 p.m. I spoke with Harold Wellington, the senior board member. He says what you did violates multiple bylaws. We we're filing a formal complaint. This isn't set over. There were more. Friends asking for gossip. Distant relatives, pretending to care about family unity. Even Aunt Rachel, the only one I truly liked, gently urging me to reconsider. At 9 sharp, I met with my legal team, 3 specialists in hospitality, property, and corporate law. Be honest, I said. Did I overstep? Sarah Chin, my lead counsel, reviewed the paperwork. Technically, you acted within your authority. The ownership clause gives you broad discretion to terminate memberships for behavior damaging to the club's reputation. Your father's actions could easily fall under that category. She paused. But, I sighed, there it is. But, she continued, suspending a long-term board member without a formal review could be challenged. The bylaws guarantee a hearing before disciplinary action. You skipped that step. So I jumped the gun. You exercised your rights, but ignored procedure. If they hire counsel, which they will, you'll be tied up in disputes for months. I rubbed my temples. What are my options? Marcus, the governance specialist, leaned forward. Option 1, stand your ground. Fight every challenge. You still probably win, but you still destroy whatever set's left of your family relationship and attract bad press. Sarah continued. Option 2, reinstate the memberships with clear conditions. Require written apologies, set behavioral expectations, and show leadership through accountability. And option 3, I asked. Sell the club, Sarah said. USEP increased its value substantially. Take the profit and move on. That one sat heavily. I don't want to sell, I said after a pause. I bought the West Bridge because it had potential, and maybe because I wanted to prove I could succeed in their world, but differently. Sarah nodded. Then we go with option 2. Not because you were wrong, but because you were wrong, but because you were choosing grace when they didn't pit. That afternoon, I called my father. He answered immediately. Izet reviewed the situation with my attorneys. I began calmly. I'm willing to reinstate your memberships under specific conditions. He was quiet for a moment. What conditions? First, a formal written apology from each of you. Not for me, but for the record. Acknowledging that judging someone's worth by their appearance was wrong. Second, all of you will join a board review of our dress code to ensure it's applied fairly. And third, you'll respect my ownership. If you can't support my direction, you can resign, but you won't undermine me. More silence. Then, softly, you Sep really built something, haven't it you? Yes, I said. I didn't set no. I should Sep paid attention, instead of assuming you were lost. You should have, I replied. He exhaled. We admired Vanessa, Because her success was visible. Her events, her charity work. Yours was behind the scenes. We didn't see it. Didn't Spet realize I was successful, or that success could look different? Both, he admitted. Sorry. What we did was wrong, regardless of who you are or what you own. The reinstatement takes effect immediately, I said. Send your apologies to Catherine by Friday. The board will review dress code policy next month. Thank you, Emma, he said quietly. This doesn't erase the years you made me feel inadequate, I replied. But I need you to know, I didn't build this for your approval. I did it because I good at it. And I love it. He hesitated. I understand that now. Good. Because I said I'm done performing success for your validation. Either you accept me as I am, or this conversation ends here. I accept you, he said. I should have long ago. I'm sorry. It took this for me to see it. We spoke for another half hour, not solving everything, but opening a door. The next Sunday, I returned to the West Bridge for brunch. Same jeans, blazer and flats. My family was already seated at their usual table. Emma, Mom said carefully, would you like to join us? I would. They saved me the seat with the best view of the terrace. We made small talk, avoiding sensitive topics until Vanessa finally said, I read about your Asheville hotel. It's getting amazing reviews. Thank you, I said. And the Savannah property, you're restoring it beautifully, she added. You've been researching my company? I wanted to understand what you built, she said softly. It is impressive. Truly. Dad nodded. Your business model reviving underperforming properties. It's brilliant. Mom reached for my hand. We meant what we wrote in our apologies. I know, I said. Dad sighed. This doesn't fix everything, but we want to know the real you, not the version we assumed. I looked around the table, flawed people, but trying. Let's try, I said. It wasn't a picture-perfect ending. There were no grand gestures or instant forgiveness, but it was real. And as members passed by, seeing me in jeans and a blazer, laughing with my family at the best table in the club, no one said a word, because now they knew. The woman they'd once dismissed owned the entire place, and finally, so did my family.